Road 73 walking path realignment. And that's all I have in front of me, Reeve.
Councilors, anything? Well, I'm high. Nothing? All right, a motion to approve the agenda with the addition. Kara,
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
discussion, all those in favor? Everybody's here today. All right, first item, budget changes since the budget was passed as far as the final budget.
Good morning, Council. Yes, on page 3 of 90 in your budget binder is a sheet here on some of the changes. I can verbally go over them as well, too. So in regards to assessment, one of the biggest items we wait to find out at the end of February is what the property assessment is looking like for the upcoming year. So for 2025, we are expecting an 8.8% increase in assessment, largely driven by linear property, and that will result in approximately a $2.9 million increase in municipal tax revenue. So we had anticipated about half that increase coming during interim budget, so we have realized a larger gain on that one. And so for the revenue and the nuts and bolts of things, we will be going into the final budget deliberations with a $2.2 million surplus. And that's, as mentioned a little bit beforehand, that's primarily where I'll recommend some funding for some of these operating reports come from, is to utilize that before going back into the reserves again there. And so for the reserves, we have a balance coming in, revised balance of $14,018,706. And so some of the differences from the interim is just some cleaning up and completion of projects, which is resulting in approximately a $2.2 million or $2.3 million change on the reserve sheets. Is just we are completing lots of those projects, and they are being taken off there. Some other items of note, we have discussed the provincial education tax. As mentioned, in 2025, we will be collecting an extra $1.27 million on behalf of the province. So that is a flow through on us, so that doesn't have a material impact there. The Senior Foundation, we received that. We will be collecting $776,210, and that will be the senior requisition.
Go ahead, Kara.
I'm going to hammer home on this provincial tax. Sorry. Do we know what the average is going to be for people paying for that? Because everybody's going to be upset when they get their property taxes, and their property taxes are going to be up, and it's got nothing to do with the county.
Yes, no, we do. We are putting something together now, so I will
Okay.
have that out to council, and we will be advertising that.
Okay, and then we'll get it out on social media. People need to increase.
Yes, and even as mentioned with that increase in assessment, through to no mill rate changes by the county itself, there will be an increase in tax dollars just in regards to the increased assessment, and then plus that school requisition amount on top of it. So, as Councillor Westland highlights, there will be an increase to some tax bills going out.
Yep.
That's good to bring that issue forward as much as we possibly can.
Oh, absolutely. We need to make sure that our residents understand.
Okay. Go ahead, Glenn.
Through the chair to Colin. So Calgary is going to start invoicing the province for collecting the school taxes. Have you looked into that at all, or they're going to invoice $10 million?
Interesting. Through the chair to Councillor Gunnarsson. No, I have not. I've heard, I don't know whether it was last or the year before, there just seemed to be, everyone reaching their limit on some of these dictating their mill rates ultimately there. So I'd heard some talk of some municipalities attempting some ways to go about doing that. I hadn't heard if any were successful, so that's certainly something to take a look at for sure.
All right. Go ahead.
And then it's also important, how much do we have for unpaid oil and gas taxes in this county? And as well, what's the school requisition on that?
Yes, so that's a good conversation. So for the unpaid, we're usually about $1 million, as highlighted by Phil with Matrix there. We currently have about $600,000 that could be listed as doubtful accounts, primarily driven by one outfit out there. So we do have some of that. Fortunately, we still are able to get that perk application to recoup that school requisition. So that's a nice piece. Previously, they made us write off the taxes completely. Now they let us keep them and still seek to receive them. So we get a little bit of favor there on that one, but we are still able to apply to the province for that missing school requisition piece that we have to pay anyway, whether we collect it or not.
Yeah. And then the point is on that all taxpayers in this province are picking up that unpaid oil and tax on the school requisition side. So I know I've been fighting this, I'll put my RMA hat on quite a bit in the media, but people don't, because they realize they're like, oh, it's just the rural municipalities, they've got lots of money, who cares? Actually, every single Albertan who pays taxes in this province is picking up the slack from these companies that continue to operate and just don't pay their taxes, so.
But that's what's good about the RMA, it's like a big co-op, it's share costs, so, go ahead.
I don't look at it that way. Someone's not doing their job, and I shouldn't have to pay for that.
No, I don't think anybody would agree with paying for somebody else's taxes, but
Yeah.
the fact that we have an association that basically we pool all of the school tax, and at least everybody's paying a portion of that, not just an area that's not getting paid.
It's not just rural municipalities paying that portion.
No, I'm
It's,
saying
yeah,
everybody,
it's, yeah, urban and rural doesn't matter, because, I mean, it's one taxpayer, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, we're agreeing, it shouldn't sound like we're arguing.
All right.
All right.
Just to finish off the last couple items here, so recreation cost sharing. So for 2025, we have increased some interim from 1.3 million. We've increased it $150,000 to $1,450,000 for 2025. So you will see that in this year. Early Childhood Development Center, basis of meetings with the town, they have indicated that we should be receiving an invoice approximately $40,000. So we have increased that from, I believe, $20,000 the interim budget to $50,000 for 2025. And just one other item there, the administration front office, the cement out front here that council had previously heard a report on and made a motion for $55,000 that will be coming on that wasn't there as well too. And then just a couple carryover projects such as water wall fencing in Rocky Rapids was approved in 2024, but will be getting completed here in 2025. So those are primarily the big.
Explanation why the recreation cost went up 150,000?
So through the chair to Councillor Heinrich, one of the items that was mentioned, kind of highlighted on a high level there, was just maybe a little bit of the newness wearing off a little bit, so maybe not quite the attendance. Didn't sound like a significant drop, but just maybe a little bit less attendance there is maybe the novelty a little bit there. And then they did mention there are some power costs that they're looking into that have increased substantially there.
Go ahead, Cody.
So through the chair to administration, we had, you'd mentioned earlier that we had a $2.2 million plus. Is that including the additions that you just mentioned?
Through the chair to Councillor Brooks. No, it is not. Thank you for bringing that up. So this $2.2 million, we're sitting with that heading into it, and that is the operational surplus to be used. Any item read through the agendas would be deducting from that amount there. So yes, so that's where, as mentioned, I'd be highlighting taxation as a funding source for the majority. I believe maybe only one item there. I would be looking at a reserve account. The rest I would be suggesting from taxation just to utilize that surplus before dipping into any reserves there.
All right. You're all done, Colin? All done. You want motions on the items that we go through?
Yes, thank you very much, Reeve. As we go through the agenda package, and so for the most part, we'll be relying on the two packages here. We have the addition from today, and then the other agenda there. So as we go through these items, if we could have a motion for each individual report, that would be greatly appreciated.
All right, who wants to spend the first 200,000?
All right, so if there are no further questions, I would ask that council look at the first item under number 3, operating reports to council. As mentioned by Councillor Brooks, these items are not currently included in the budget and non-funded. And the first item is 3A, third CPO position.
Morning, Reeve and Council. So you're on page 3 there. So administration is looking at a third CPO position. We currently employ 2 community peace officers. Since 2020, there have been an increase in complaints, expanded scope of enforcement from the province, and longevity concerns for animal control. As a result, administration is recommending expansion of enforcement services to include a third CPO. Down below on page 3 there at the bottom, you'll see as far as what they're dealing with, like in 2024 we were dealing with over 600 complaints, and then we do help planning and development as far as when there's high-risk persons, when they're going onto property that are known to be, could be an issue. So they helped with 60 instances with planning and development in 2024. In 2025, year to date, they've dealt with 63 cases and 22 planning and development assists. And then you'll see below the 2023, 2022, and back to 19. We don't have all the stats because we did transition to new software, and that's so we could get better tracking on this. Also, the province has enhanced or expanded CPO's authorities over the years, with the most recent being permission to ticket on 1- and 2-digit highways, and further enhancements are currently being considered. And then recent renewals for animal control services highlights a concern about future contract availability, specifically regarding lack of proposals for services from contractors. This third position would remove the need for animal control to be contracted and bring the service in-house. There's the last county comparison. This is just rural communities. It was done in 2017. You can see the raw data on attachment 1, but just to highlight, if you look at the first column there, municipal averages, if we look at all the different counties, it averages to 7, and CPO for 2,532 persons, which compares to us with 3,886. And then if you break it down further, kilometers as far as coverage of the road per CPO, the average is actually only 671. We're currently at 1529. So if you go to the next column there, we're recommending if we bring in a third CPO, it would look at population of 2,590 compared to the average of 2,532, and then this would bring it down to only covering 1,019 compared to the average of 671. So we figure that would bring it more in line with what the rest of the province. And the cost of doing this, adding a third member is $136,000.75, plus we have $105,000, and that's actually, this is up to date as of last week. I quoted out a vehicle. But if we looked at bringing in a third member, we'd be looking at mid-year. So that would not be a full cost for the year. So with the car and with the staffing, it would be a total of 190 for 2025, but then future year would be 136.75 for the future years. And just for your information, I know that the town has a third CPO in their budget, so they're currently looking at hiring a third CPO as well.
The difference between CPOs and RCMP, as they stated to us, is that our CPOs can back away from the situation. RCMP have to go forward and deal with this. So using road data is interesting. Populations. I'm not in favor of adding another CPO because we've also been given reports that adding more police or CPO doesn't change your crime rates. And our guys are primarily CPOs. But that's just my comments. Donna?
Just wondering, so with another CPO, would that put him on the weekends or further, or more hours during the week? Or how would you?
Well, right now, because we have the two CPOs, we do struggle with covering the 7 days, so there are gaps. We do cover every day, but of course, when they're on training or on holidays or sick time, then you struggle. It would, they still cover the weekends. It would make it a lot better as far as having more coverage all the time, yeah.
Kara?
Yeah, I think it's impossible to expect two people to have coverage 365 days a year at every hour. It's just, I mean, we can quickly do the math, it's impossible, so. Just with the amount of increases in, I guess, calls for service, do we know what's driving that?
I know you asked
Yeah.
that question.
Like, that's
Sign
huge,
of the-
that's a significant increase, other than, I guess, the numbers weren't quite accurate
Yeah.
from before either, so they could have been higher, but that's a huge jump. What's going on?
I know this in 2024 was, you know, it was just,
Nonstop.
yeah, just following up on complaints, so it's, I mean, like you said, it's not criminal code activities, but it's just as far as
Yeah.
calls from the citizens that we're having to.
Well, I mean, I had the increase in calls between midnight and 5 a.m. too as well, so, because they can't get a hold of the CPO, so guess who they phone?
Cody? Then Glenn?
Yeah, through the chair to administration. You'd mentioned that our CPOs could take care of animal control. Do we have trouble, or do we foresee an issue with our current animal control person? And I understand they're not our employee, right? So I think we can.
It's a contract. I've had conversations with her. She has a lot of education, so we do, you know, we've sought her as far as direction and experience. But I just struggle with, I know there's going to be a day, if it's not tomorrow or definitely in the next year or so. And that's bringing it in-house, just makes sense. I know we've currently got our CPOs taking training for animal control right now. They do offer a course. I know, not to go there, but that's the way the town is doing it as well. We just need to make sure we have the kenneling, you know, that's the part we would retain what we have right now.
Yeah, carry on, Cody.
So, with our current CPOs, if that was the only addition, would they be able to handle that? Or would we need the extra position? You know, I think that as far as kenneling goes, we were just speaking to a fellow came in at our last meeting, and it sounded like it sounded like he was coming with a solution that wasn't really going to cost us anything.
It's a
so.
good compliment.
Mhm.
I just, speaking with him, he's got some funding issues to make sure that goes ahead, but it would complement, and that would be a great place for the kenneling, and yes, and he could help with that contract as well, yeah.
Glenn, bend my arm. I'm on the edge.
I don't think I'm going to be bending your arm. So, yeah, I think that the two that we have are very effective. The only speeding tickets my family gets are in Brazeau County. Well, we drove all the way from Seattle to Vancouver, then from Vancouver all the way to home in one day, and we didn't get a ticket till we hit Brazeau County. Like I said, I get tickets when I'm going to the dentist's office. I don't get tickets in the city, Leduc, anywhere else. But our two guys are there. We can, even our last public works director could confirm that they were on top of it. They catch people. They're really good at it. My wife would forbid me from passing there or going forward for this. Like I said, we've been hit hard. Also, the province has recently cut the funding from tickets, right? they were only taking 26.7% before, and now they're taking 40%. And that's taken away $32 million from Alberta municipalities trying to enforce this. But right now, I think, just to give, like I said, tickets are one thing, but it's a tax on the working citizen, people trying to get their kids to soccer or whatever, making appointments. I think everyone needs to have a fair chance to get around this county. To increase us one more person just seems unfair. But I appreciate, maybe once the population is a little more, I can see this coming into place. But right now, I wouldn't be in favor of it.
Glenn, I'm just, you've hit me with an issue there, because I've gotten 2 tickets in the last 5 years, and both in Brazeau County. So that's interesting. Anthony? Not that I
I
do
think
things
a comment-
illegally.
I think the comment was made earlier too, that our individuals are working fairly substantially trying to cover the whole area. I don't feel that they are covering the county adequately, in my opinion, contrary to Glenn here. I think that we need, if we're choosing to go over the speed limits, and we happen to have an officer, whether it's the RCMP or sheriff or one of our CPOs, I think we earned it. I know I earned one of them, and it wasn't necessary from these guys. But I don't need another one. So the only thing that I need to do is watch how fast I drive. That's well within my control. It also is within our responsibilities, as far as I see as counselors, to make sure that we have what I'm calling good coverage for our residents for the various needs that are out there. When you see the amount of complaints that are going up there, it's impossible. You know, it's not likely that we're going to get the same number of complaints perhaps in the next year. This may have been an anomaly or whatever from the statistics that are shown, but still, the workload that these individuals have been required to be undertaking just isn't satisfactory. We need another individual. If the town is looking at bringing in, and they're probably having come to the table with a CPO a lot later, they're seeing the value of it. I certainly see the value, and I think we need another person. And that cost is well worth the benefits that we get out of this for our citizens. Any presence of any vehicle, I'm going to call it officer-type vehicle, seems to have an effect on crime as well, even if it doesn't necessarily have the same, let's say, apprehension ability. But the vehicle themselves and the officers out there do have an impact on the activity in our communities.
Anybody else like to confess? Kara?
So yes, I've been, I have gotten speeding tickets, actually not in Brazeau County. Parkland guys are pretty good too, by the way. Watch that the Genesee Road, because that's usually where I get mine. But I get a ticket because I broke the law and I was speeding. And any ticket I've had in the last 10 years, it hasn't been because I was going 5 over or 8 over. Come on, you guys. If we're getting a speeding ticket, we all know we're doing at least 10 over when we get a ticket. So that's on us, not anybody else. So I'm trying to look past our personal views on it. And I think what our CPOs and the numbers are showing it, they're not out there hunting down speeders out there. And I think the number of complaints that have come in that shows you that, you know, traffic tickets are just, it's a small portion of what they do. And any calls that I've had probably, and I will say in the last 5 years that I've gotten come between midnight and 5 a.m. on a weekend, and it's noise and it's noise complaints, generally from the gravel. And we do not have anybody on. And I have residents asking me, well, what are you going to do about it? Or if you have rules, then don't have rules you can't enforce. And our poor CEO, our current one and our previous one, and our CPOs do get calls up from me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because I don't know who's on and who's not on, or who's on and who's off. And it's more than just speeding tickets. I know we tend to focus on that because it hurts us all in the wallet, but if we're gonna get a speeding ticket, it's generally our own faults anyways, and nobody else but our own. So I'm gonna hound on those numbers. I wanna know what's driving behind that. It's probably hard to show what's driving behind that. Like, do we need to make bylaw changes? Are our current bylaws and our policies not working? Like, that's kind of where I want to dig in and see what we can do to improve that. But the numbers are showing that I think we need it out there. And having two individuals, I think are we 330 square kilometers?
I
As a
just have the number
municipality?
of roads,
Yeah. Like,
as
it's
far as-
impossible to be everywhere at all times, so anyways.
I don't think we expect them to be everywhere. We just expect them to do a certain amount, and they only do what they are capable of doing. They don't put themselves in a stressful situation thinking that they have to get 2 more tickets this month to bring the average up. So they just do what they can, and that's it.
I will say, I don't usually say this, but of course, they're always, when we've looked at the stats, we are way, way down as far as number of tickets compared to everybody else. Like, I would say a third, then, compared to everybody else as far as when we look at the revenue, as far as the tickets and stuff.
I guess there's people worse than us, Glenn. Donna, then Glenn, then Anthony.
Kara hit the nail on the head. Yes, all of my complaints are between 7 and midnight. And it's usually, not all of my complaints, but usually the noise complaints are then. And on the weekends, that's when I usually get, like, there's a lot of activity out there that isn't on the up and up. And it's not speeding tickets. So yeah, I am in favor of another CPO.
Glenn, and then Anthony.
On the noise complaints, I get the noise complaints, but I drive out right away. Do you guys, you don't then, is what you're saying? You just call the CPO to go check? Well, I just want to confirm that there is a problem before I phone, right? Because, yeah, any complaint I get, I go check first before I would call the CPO. When I did do the drive along with the CPO, we did take calls during that day, and he did say that some of the people are just repeat callers. Like, just if they see a car that it spooks them, and they make that call immediately. So I don't know how many of these calls are from one person that's phoning every day, or what the breakdown of the calls. It would be nice to see, okay, these are for dog complaints or noise complaints or suspicious vehicle complaints. But yeah, I know that we ignored that call because it was a repeat caller. We just continued on catching speeders while we were on our tour. But yeah, like I said, I don't know how many of those complaints were that way, but.
I want thorough discussion, but we're on the first item, and we haven't done anything yet, except talk. Go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead, Don. I'm just putting it into a frame. Okay, Anthony, go ahead.
I want to make a motion.
Thank you. Donna?
I have a concern now. Are we supposed to be going out to complaints? Like, I don't think that's. But what's the noise? Like, are they out there shooting? Are they out there, like, I'm not gonna go out to,
Oh, it's usually music.
but still,
Music
like,
here, in my case, it's the Bitcoin mine. How loud is it, right?
I'm sure that we heard somewhere in our orientation that that's not our job, to go out there and see what's going on. I don't want you hurt. Like, you could go out somewhere and get hurt.
Are your red lights on because you want to talk, or you guys are all done? Anthony, you're all done?
I want to make a motion.
Oh, well, Dallas hasn't spoke yet.
Yeah, noise complaints are not life-threatening, so they don't have to be dealt with at 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, there's a process to deal with those types of misdemeanors. My goodness, I don't answer my phone at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sorry. No, I'm not sorry. If we didn't have to pour $1 million into the RCMP of cost sharing there, I'd be jumping all over this. But we cost share a lot, and the province dumped that on us. That's $1 million a year. They deal with the criminal activities, not our CPOs. Our CPOs shouldn't be dealing with crime. We have a cost share, and they're asking us for direction. Let's give them direction. Let's continue to work with them. That seems to be the route that we're on, unfortunately. But the RCMP, we're sharing in that cost. That is the big chunk. When I have, I hear from the library, for example, there's somebody there that is scary or high on drugs or something, and, you know, maybe they're thinking about calling the CPO, and I said, just no, call the RCMP. That's an RCMP issue, that's not our issue. So I really don't believe that our peace officers should be dealing with crime. And when it comes to planning and development, I'm a real believer that council should be dealing with that. Like, that would eliminate some of those calls for planning and development. That's really easy stuff to deal with, and that should be a council responsibility, in my opinion. Well, if you just look at the stats there on page, I don't know my number, but my page got cut off there on page 2, I think. See, it says planning and development there. 22 assists, 60 assists in 2023. Like, I think that should be our responsibility. Just my opinion. There it is.
Yeah, CPOs are brought in as bylaw enforcement officers, speeding tickets, things like that, dog issues, any of the issues that relate to the bylaws that we have made, and they were brought in to actually look after that aspect.
Yeah. And just look at on the average, like that was an anomaly. 2024 is an anomaly. Like, I can't explain why that happened, but just look at the averages, and we have to deal on the averages. Our CPOs do a great job, and I get lots of with. And I would continue, look at Panoka County, they got one CPO officer. I don't know how they get away with that. That's incredible. But I think Grand Prairie's been thrown in here as a little bit of a stat, but Grand Prairie is a kettle fish all to its own. They've done something completely different. So it's really hard to use that as a comparator. So I would get again next year. Like, I would honestly do that. That's just my 2 bits.
Cody, then I'll get Anthony to wrap things up with the motion.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention to council that as far as, you know, the noise complaints and planning and development goes, you know, if there's nobody there to see if it's actually happening, then how do you enforce it? You know what I mean? Like, if there's a complaint at 3 in the morning and I go out there, I don't have a device to check the decibel ratings and that sort of thing. Like, it's not, I don't want to say it's not our job, because I don't want to sound lazy, but I'm not equipped to do those sort of things, whereas our peace officers are. Whether or not that changes your mind, that's just, I feel like that is their job. So that's all, I guess.
Anthony?
I'm prepared to make a motion, but also I wanted to make sure that I got understood Lee correctly. When the officer was going to be hired, by the time we hire that person, that 85,000 won't be all required for this year, because if it's halfway through, it'd probably be about half that.
Yeah, but we would, with the vehicle, because we'd have to buy the vehicle up front, we're looking at 190,000. That's with the offset reduced cost. The total 190, so it's only 85,000 this year.
For the officer part.
Yeah, yeah. So 85 and 105, 190.
But I think if we get into this, we're not getting into it for 6 months. You're creating a commitment for the next, whatever it is, 10 years. So you can't just say it's just for this year, because there's going to be a corresponding amount next year,
136 is proceeding every year after.
right?
Okay, I'm prepared to make a motion, Mark.
Okay, go ahead.
I move the council approve adding a 3rd community peace officer to the protective services budget at a cost of 85,000 plus 105,000 per vehicle, with a total cost of 190 for 2025, and full funding for the permanent position in 2026 and beyond at the projected cost of $136,075.
Any other discussion? Go ahead, Dallas.
Yeah, what is that, $1.7 million over 10 years? That's a big investment.
That was a good calculation. All right. Any other discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Okay, 3 opposed, the motion is carried. All right. Alice?
Just one quick note, council, if I may. Could I just part of Anthony's motion there, could we just have the funding from taxation, please?
No, take it out of reserves.
Sub-motion. Sorry.
Go ahead, Anthony.
And additionally, I would move that we take the funding for this third community police officer from taxation.
Discussion, those in favor? Those opposed? 3 opposed? Okay. Next item, Alice.
Good morning, Reva and Council.
Morning.
On page 6 and 7 of your agenda, you will find an RFD requesting an additional $5,000 be added to the ASB budget to host a joint 10-year Alice anniversary and producer appreciation dinner.
Okay.
This,
Oh.
sorry, just a little bit of background. This dinner will be held on September 12th, 2025. We're hoping to host 200 people, local producers, and the ag community. It'll be catered by Sullivan's from Drayton Valley. We're requesting $5,000 from this council. We have also requested $5,000 from Alice National to contribute as well. At this time, they have confirmed the contribution of $2,500 with the possibility of more to come as funding becomes available from them. We will also be seeking sponsorship and donations from the community.
Okay, thank you. What's your wishes, councillors? Glenn?
Prepared to make a motion. I move the council approve the addition of up to $5,000 to the final agricultural service budget to fund a portion of a joint 10-year Alice anniversary and an ASB producer appreciation dinner, with the money coming from taxation.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Range Road 75, that's the one that we jointly worked with on the town, I believe, isn't it? Who's talking? Oh, you are, Pippa, okay. Morning.
Yeah, so Range Road 75, south of Township Road 494. So here for council to provide direction on the surface of Range Road 75, south of Township Road 494. There's a map on page 13. So there was 2 motions. The last motion made during budget discussions, November 21st, 2024, to approve asphalt surfacing on Range Road 75, south of 494, in the amount of $357,000, funded from road restricted surplus account, subject to Town of Drayton Valley participation on their portion of the road. On January 22nd, 2025, administration sent a letter to the Town of Drayton Valley. On February 18th, 2025, we received a response. Both the letter we sent and the response are attached on page 10 and 11. So I do understand there was some poor choice in wording received in the response. However, it was town determined that while it not be deemed a priority in the 2026 budget cycle, the town's committed to taking a proactive approach by gathering pricing and pertinent information to ensure that the matter is thoroughly explored and appropriately considered during the upcoming 2026 budget deliberations. So Brazeau County Administration will keep in touch with the town and follow up with this topic at the 2026 budget deliberations.
So this is more of an update on what the status is, not to spend any money.
Council's choice, so administration wanted to see what the town's interest was in participating. They're not looking to in 2025. And the motion was, subject to Town of Drayton Valley
Right.
participation.
So that's what I mean, there's nothing we can do about forcing the town to do a road if they don't want to do it this year or next year.
And so Brazeau County Administration will make sure that we keep in touch with the town for 2026 interim budget deliberations and also provide an update there if council wishes.
What's your wishes, councillors? Cody?
Through the chair to administration, I understand that nobody has a crystal ball and we can't predict the future. But if we were to weigh the cost savings that we would get by doing this jointly with the town versus I'm gonna say the average cost increase over time. You know, if we were to do this next year, the cost is gonna be greater. You might not have the answer, but if we were to do this next year, what would be the cost increase, roughly speaking, versus what we would be saving in the mobilization cost by doing this jointly with the town?
I feel like I have a hard time answering that. We've
Yeah.
seen this year that substantially from last year, this year, there has been increases. Concrete went up a lot and there has been increase in prices. I don't know that I want to commit to a number and predict that
Yeah.
for the coming year though. But we have seen that over the past 24 to 25.
Yeah.
That be a theme.
Do you know what off the cuff what that number is? From last year to this year? Or
So when the price was 357,000, that price, we'd already incorporated the increase that we received notifications of, like increase in product, increase in concrete prices. So at that time of quoting the 57,000, it taken into account the increased prices we've been notified of thus far in 2024.
do you know what that number is?
No, I don't.
Okay. And do you know what the mobilization costs are that we would be jointly sharing?
The mobilization, I don't believe we'd be jointly sharing because we'd be doing separate projects there. The base and then the paving of it would be separate. We'd both put it out to tender, and it could be the same company that, gets that, but it's not guaranteed. So
Okay.
I couldn't confirm that, and I can't direct who Drayton Valley
Yeah,
uses
so
for that.
The reason that it was within the motion that it was subject to the town of Drayton Valley participation was that the idea was we would get the same company, and then we wouldn't be having two companies come out, or even the same company come out at a different time, and then, they're charging us to come here, right? So there's the cost to actually do the work, and there's the cost to come out here. So if they come out here and then do it all at the same time, we could share that mobilization cost was the idea. But if that's not possible, then I don't really see a reason why we would wait for the town of Drayton Valley to do it, and then deal with the increase in the price when it gets there.
Anthony?
The oil prices this year, if it continues the way it is, may be lower than what they've been budgeting when they're talking. So our numbers might be cheaper this year, even if the cement is higher. So I think this would be the time to do our portion and let the town do theirs when they choose to. That way, we've done it before with I believe the walkways, and the town caught up on it. And this would be our way of serving our residents and getting it done in a timely fashion, and perhaps even with reduced oil prices.
So we'd have pavement coming from Drayton Valley, gravel, then pavement again, so kind of like a hopscotch kind of road.
Until they did that.
I don't know if we'd want to start a project. First of all, everybody would look silly, doing part of a project and the rest being left gravel. I think the effort should be is in convincing the town to do their portion this year. And if they want to do it, I'm all in favor of going ahead with this project. Kara, then Cody, then Donna.
Yeah, and common sense is gonna tell me, I don't understand, we should just do it together, because we'll probably both get a cost savings. The accounting side of stuff can figure out who owes what. I think we're all adults around the room, we can figure that out pretty easy. It blows my mind that we wouldn't just tender this out together and get it done, because you're gonna get probably increased costs doing two different tenders out for a segment of road. That being said, Anthony's got a good point. I don't, try and choose my words carefully, but it's fine. I have a feeling the town's just not gonna do it until we do it. So it's almost like we've gotta force the trigger on this one. This road there is residences along it, but this road is pounded out. I don't know if anybody's been on it or driven on it. It's absolute garbage. and it feeds our business and our industry community, and I cannot believe that there's not more people here upset about that road, because it's crap. And it serves a large portion of the Poplar Ridge industry too for us as well. So I've driven on it. I actually choose not to drive on it because it does damage to my SUV. So that tells you what the road condition's like. So I try to avoid it as if I can, but it needs to get done. Of all the roads that have been done in the county and the town, I cannot believe that this segment of road is not done yet. Just blows my mind. It's huge.
Donna?
When I saw the numbers on this road, I thought, holy, why haven't we done this road? I never go on that road. It's so dusty, and we have done that before on, well, in my division, 82, there was a portion that wasn't done for years. Yeah, I think Kara's right. If we do it, I think they would do it the next year, or maybe whenever, but they would do it. And I don't know if there would be a cost saving if, like we thought, they were going to get the equipment there at the same time, at the same company. But if that's not how it works, then I just think we should go ahead.
Go ahead on what? Pushing a project that the town may not want? That's the part that I'm wondering is that if we can't force the town to do their portion, so you're just saying shame them into it?
No. I'm saying give pavement to our residents that have to travel that road every day to get into the industry part of town.
But they're only gonna get halfway, and then they hit gravel again, then they hit the town stuff. So it's just, you're gonna have that hopscotch kind of thing. You go a mile, then you hit gravel again. I think you're better off to wait till the town wants to do it, and then we do a joint project. '82 was, a portion was done of 2 miles, and then the other full 2 miles to Highway 620 wasn't done. And it sat there like that. But it wasn't there and then a patch and then pavement, like a break in between the two pavements. Okay. Glenn?
Ultimately, the project should have been done a long time ago and debentured to give the town, they could have taken it then, but I would agree that if we don't do it, it's never gonna get done. It's already been 20 years, way too long on that road, and I can't believe that it wasn't done. I don't know where the priorities ever went for that road, but it's high priority for me. It might not be for town administration or county administration, but it is for me. So yeah, I'd be very much in favor of getting our portion done.
Now, you mentioned the word debenture. Do you want to do it as a debenture, so in case the town takes it over? What's that?
It's over anytime soon.
I never-
They're not gonna be annexing more land in the next 20 years, are they? I don't
don't know.
forecast that. So it wouldn't be worth debenturing that.
Except that interest rates are
That's
so
gonna
low.
probably bite me in the, but you can replay that later.
Anthony?
Have we got other paving projects that we're doing here this year? 25?
We do not, no. And the town doesn't have any paving projects in 25, and the county does not.
So that, would this project be proposed paving or similar to some of the chip seal, cement base?
We'd be looking into paving, and I think we presented the 2 different prices. I'd have to pull that up. And it was fairly similar, and I think that's why council chose the paving option.
Okay,
Yeah.
but we don't have anything coming in this year.
Not paving, no.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We're very close, yeah.
So Anthony was thinking that we just piggyback on one of the other paving projects, but we're not doing that either. Just a lot of arrows saying no. Cody?
Yeah, so ideally, we would have done this, we'd be doing this next year, or this year. We'd be doing this year. The town would have been doing a pavement project, we'd have cost shared. Now, normally I would agree with Bart, that.
What?
I know, no, we agree all the time, what are you talking about? So normally I would agree that, it doesn't make sense to do, one section of pavement, then have gravel and then pavement. But given that we only have control over our part, we can't force the town to do anything. I kind of ask myself, like, at what cost, right? If we're not gonna, if it's never gonna happen, then we're gonna cost share on this. Then you're not gonna get that saving. And then, so you're just waiting. And if we wait 5 years, the cost is going to be, I don't know how significant, because I can't predict the future, but it's gonna be significantly more. So, we could wait, but what's the cost of us waiting? So, unless there's anything else, I guess I could make a motion.
I guess you can make a motion. I haven't seen any real consensus, but
Yeah, so, and that's, you want to vote, I guess, but, so if I make a motion, am I making a motion to amend our previous motion? I'd be making a motion to amend 684/24-11-21? Or would I have to make another motion to rescind and then make a new motion?
Just due to Chunker Brooks, just due to that last motion mentioning, subject to Drayton Valley participation on their portion of the road. So we'd be looking for the motion minus that, subject to portion.
Sorry, because when I heard you say my name, I heard Chancellor Brooks, and I was just like, that's like perfect. Anyway, sorry, so, I'm just amending this motion. Okay. All right. So I move to amend motion 684/24-11-21 to remove the words "subject to the town of Drayton Valley participation on their portion of the road."
any other discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Dallas and Bart. All right, next item.
Sand and salt shed paving. So looking for council to add the proposed paving of the sand and salt shed in the amount of $600,000, funding source major facility capital investment reserve to 2025 final budget. So a report was presented at January 13th regular council meeting for the proposed paving to the sand and salt shed in the amount of $600,000. The following motion was made to table motion until more information is brought back to the next council meeting. So administration reviewed the sand and salt shed joint use agreement between Brazeau County and the town of Drayton Valley, which is attached. In reviewing it, capital improvements do not qualify for cost sharing. So if you know condition 5, maintenance and operating costs will include all costs pertaining to the existing structure and grounds. Any future capital costs for the building or grounds will not be included or charged to the town. We did circulate this internally through Public Works, Finance, CEO, just to all determine the wording on that, and that the town is not due to cost share on the repaving on the capital project of that. And just a bit of background, the paving at the sand and salt shed, it's in need of rehabilitation to enhance its functionality and safety. It's essential for addressing the growing surface degradation, which has led to safety concerns and the potential for salt infiltration into the subbase. Such infiltration could result in significant environmental issues as seen at the old county yard, where salt contamination is currently being monitored. The long-term costs of salt contamination are high, and delaying the project could exacerbate these issues.
And Anthony.
Thank you. I got a couple questions. So how much of this facility, so the town's using it
A
Correct.
small portion of one of the, in the top sheds for storage.
Okay, so just a
And-
small, what's small?
A portion of, in a top storage and a top shed.
Okay,
And all, if you look at the agreements, it's referenced as to what the town's responsibility is the shed, as a quote unquote the shed.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess, and then does the town assume any of the liability with contamination because they're using it? I assume not.
Not within this agreement.
Why are they using it? Like, so obviously they've got nowhere in town to store it. Is this why they're using our facility?
It must be, I haven't asked that, but this agreement's been in place since 2006.
Yeah.
So it's just, yeah.
I know the questions are for you,
Long-term.
but they're just
Yeah.
more, I'm really surprised because anything that we use of the towns, we cost share on it. And I'm surprised that this is kind of, to me, it's fallen through the cracks at
Yeah,
some
this is,
point in some stage because, trust me, the town comes after us for 50% of everything that we're involved in. And I'm just a little surprised that they don't reciprocate it back to us on this, so that's all.
You make a point, Kara, if there's a liability issue, if it's not written in the contract, then it should be added to the price of sand and salt that we actually deliver to them, because it is a direct cost to us if there's a wreck that goes on. So that's something that we have to look at. And just as a note, you guys, like, we came into this with 2.2. What have we spent so far, Colin? Because I was hoping that there was gonna be 1.3 for a tax incentive to come back to the people, and we're spending it like drunken sailors. Just go ahead, Colin.
So to the REIT, so as of today, new funds spent are 195,000 related to the third CPO and the Al's appreciation event. The 357 on the Range Road 75 was approved and funded through interim budget, so that was not new funds spent. So as of today, out of the surplus, we still have 2,017,000 roughly left over.
Go ahead, Glenn, and then Anthony.
So the salt shed was a joint municipal grant, right, between the town and the county. That's why the town is using it, because they got part of that grant money for it. What I don't understand, it says, maintenance and operating costs will include all costs pertaining to the existing structure and grounds. That to me seems like the asphalt surface that's there. And then it says on number 6, the county shall maintain a record of all costs incurred for the operation and maintenance of the shelter. And receiving an invoice from the county, the town may review the records of the county kept in relation to the particular cost detailed in the invoice. But it's the operation and maintenance of the grounds as well, isn't it, or is it not?
It's because this falls under capital, the paving of it, and so that's why it was determined, because it is a capital project of the paving of it, that doesn't fall under that.
Okay.
We have invoiced in the past regarding replacing the top shed, so the top on the shed, so they've cost shared in that.
And all that's, right now, when I drove by, there's a huge pile of sand and salty snow. Where did that come from? Is that the counties, or is that the towns? Like, it's sitting right on top of that cracked asphalt surface right now.
I can't speak to that right
Okay.
now.
Yeah, it does have to be fixed regardless. Like I said, otherwise the results will be another huge environmental cost down the road. So I just had those questions. Thank you.
Anthony?
Glenn kind of made the point I was getting at. It appears that surface in there already is paved or hard surfaced, right?
It is, yeah.
So to me, this is maintenance. If we happen to reseal, resurface it, you know, to fix up the surface so it's in better shape, to me, that's maintenance. The town has done different things like that in their recreation costs especially, that have bordered on whether it's capital or whether it's maintenance. And a lot of it in our discussions that we had when I was still on the board with Recreation Committee, it was agreed in our discussions and with councils to have a lot of those things put in to maintenance. This is maintenance. As far as I'm concerned, the town should be paying their portion of it, because the service is already there. We're just maintaining it. So when we're choosing to want to work cooperatively with the town, this is an example where they need to show it works on their part too.
So you're saying it's maintenance and they should be paying half of the cost?
Half or whatever the percentage is. I don't know if the percentage is less than half, but Pippa, do you know if the percentage is 50/50?
What they are obliged to, no.
Somewheres I think there was a different percentage.
Kara, comment?
47.
Yeah, I just, something just tweaking in my brain. I believe we have to do this because it's legislative requirement, correct? Like, if we don't do something, we're gonna get into like environmental trouble. There's a huge liability risk, I think, for the municipality if we don't get this done. Regardless who pays, it needs to get done. We can figure out who pays after, but it needs to happen for the environmental risk to this, correct? And which would be a legislative requirement of us.
Correct, and Public Works Maintenance is very concerned about the environmental risk here, given our current, we've seen this before and the ongoing cost from it. So looking to have this rectified, not to have an ongoing environmental concern.
Anthony, are you making a motion? I'm just asking that because I haven't heard from Dallas yet.
Well, if he wants to make his comments, I'll make the motion.
Go ahead, Dallas.
Oh, thank you. So yeah, looking at, when I was there, I looked at it, I think that we could do some repair work instead of doing an entire resurfacing. I think that would get us down the road a little bit farther, and that would keep some more cash in our jeans. Again, so it looks like that's where we do a lot of turning and a lot of loading in that area right there. Maybe we could just change the way we, some of the drivers enter and exit that particular piece of property. I don't know, I just want to do as much as we can with as little as possible. I've always been, I'm not a big fan of salt. I don't like salt at all. I'd like to wean the county off salt. I'd like to get into a bit of engage Public Works with what their opinion is on the use of salt. Salt does a tremendous amount of damage, not only to the environment, but as you know, I'm a heavy equipment technician. I do a lot of automotive work. It destroys property. It destroys vehicles. And I just can't stand it. It just drives me crazy. So those are the two things that I would like to consider repair. I think we can do something there, get some slope back on that, so we don't have a little dent in the middle of our property. And I'd like to consider getting off salt.
But with the bathwater, and you can see if you're only gonna fix 40% of the site, why would you do the whole thing? Anyway, Anthony, did you have turn your light off, so you changed your mind about something?
Okay, originally the town contributed 47% to this project. So if they originally contributed that, we own the property now, but maintenance is still a share, and that's where I'm trying to find an agreement, what the maintenance costs would be, like what percentage, if they're like a 50-50 or that same 47%, 53, I think it's be reasonable to at least expect the same 47-53% ratio for the maintenance cost, because that's what they originally put into it.
Okay, Donna?
I'm just wondering, on Dallas's, I hate salt too. It just wrecks everything. And, is there anything else we can use? Cause I hate accidents too. Like, is there anything that you know of that works?
But just sand, lots of sand. There's nothing more effective than sand. Salt only has a temperature, small, narrow temperature range where it's useful, and then once you drop below that temperature, all of a sudden your surface begins to melt. But if you need something with traction, sand is the best. There's sand, lots of sand. Sand doesn't hurt anything.
Province, there was a movement to do that here 5 years ago or so, where they were gonna charge us with polluting the environment because we're using salt. Remember that? Glenn?
Yeah, I just seen a document, well, it was a news article, but New York, their water supply is now in danger because they've used so much road salt it's gotten into their fresh water dams. And I agree, if we could just use sand, I would gladly get rid of that salt. But until that can be done, this has to be fixed. I don't want to be stuck with another multi-million-dollar bill. So I move the council add the proposed paving to the sand and salt shed in the amount of $600,000 funding source major facility capital investment reserve to the 2025 final budget.
So no cost sharing with the town? Well, we haven't tried, they just haven't agreed. Anthony?
Condition number 3 says the town shall be responsible to pay the county on an annual basis for a share of the maintenance and operating costs for the shelter that is proportionate to the town's use of the shelter for storage. So from my point of view, right there, if this is maintenance, they're required to pay that portion of whatever, if they're using it 20% of the time or whatever that percentage is, this agreement requires them to pay it.
So it's hard, just because it's hard to vote on a motion if we don't know what we're actually voting on. And if Anthony's correct, then we have to subtract that amount from the cost. Go ahead.
Through Reeve to council. When I did circulate this through all the different departments and speaking to everybody, the wording in it, which is making this a little bit difficult, is the shelter. So in condition 3 and 4, we're very much tied to the shelter. And this is what's taking this paving outside of this agreement. And I definitely agree that this agreement should be looked at and revised since 2006. Some of the items on the map, the shelter and buildings have actually moved and changed too, which doesn't help the validity of this joint agreement. But in condition 3 and 4, the maintenance and operating costs of the shelter. And when I referred it out internally, that was the response back, is that the shelter wording.
Okay. Anthony? And I just gotta keep in mind, you made a motion, Glenn, or not?
I think that word shelter, the shelter doesn't exist without having access to it. And if you look at my interpretation of number 2 above that, would allow for that inclusion. So I think we should also put a part of Glenn's motion that we pursue the cost contribution from the town for their portion of the use of that facility.
That's the normal practice that we've been using on any cost sharing.
I think Rudy has something to say.
Rudy, you wanna wade into this, really?
No, Reeve, thank you. But just to clarify, we're stuck on conditions number 2 and 3, but clearly condition 5 states that any future capital costs are not the responsibility of the town, solely of the county. And by financial definition, even if we tried to make this a maintenance cost, come audit time, the auditor would move it to a capital item because of the size and the amount and our ability to amortize it over time.
Well, that doesn't sound good. Anthony?
How come and again, maybe this is just my opinion, but how come the town, same doesn't apply then on some of the town capital, so-called capital costs that get put into ours, and the auditor doesn't seem to catch them?
Through the Reeve to Councillor Heinrich, unsure. In this particular situation, with this particular location, we are dealing with this particular agreement, albeit, as Ms. Whaley pointed out, somewhat dated, but this is the agreement relative to this facility. I can't speak to other agreements.
Well, Glenn's motion is to do it, right, Glenn?
Pardon me?
Glenn's motion was to do it,
Yes.
and I think subsequent to that, it would be in line to make another motion suggesting that the portion that's for the town use be applied for and requested from the town.
And they're gonna go, you already did it. We're not giving you nothing.
There are
But-
other funds that they get from us that easily can be deducted.
So let's have another war with the town. Dallas?
Yeah. Just, I know the motion's on the floor, but I would just really like to consider repair versus replacement. I'd like to see that cost up. That's just, so I'm not going to support this motion just for that reason. I know it has to be done, but I'd like to save some money.
We should have a motion. you can have it as an amendment. Well, that's another option too. That's another option too, Glenn, thanks. Okay, so Glenn's motion is on the floor to do the project totally. All those in favor? That's carried. Those opposed? Dallas, Bart, and Donna. The frugal experts. The people that are business frugal. All right, let's take a 5-minute break. We're halfway done. Let's keep her. We left off on, I think, the brush rate. Sure.
Yeah, so I'd just like Public Works to consider the idea of using less salt or getting ourselves off salt. So I'd like to move, or I will move to direct administration to explore using no salt for Brazeau County.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Sorry, that's clear as mud. Sorry, Pippa.
You're in favor there, Anthony? Yeah, it's to discontinue the use of salt. We may have to look for another project or a product that might do something similar, but eventually we're going to be weaned off by the federal government. I mean, look at how many millions we've spent cleaning up a salt mess at the old shop.
Oil-based paint, but we can throw salt all over the roads.
Yeah. And sorry, Tina. It was unanimous. Anthony just voted slowly. All right, next item there, Pippa.
Rake attachment. Administration is looking to replace the brush rake attachment for Brazeau County's 330 cat excavator. The current brush rake attachment is 15 years old and has undergone multiple repairs. In January 2025, the attachment was damaged beyond repair, and we can't use it at its full capacity. The brush rake is essential to the tasks such as removing brush and foliage and stockpiling burn piles during road construction projects. Operationally, the current rake attachment can no longer be used at its full capacity. A replacement is critical for ongoing in-house road building activities. Without a functional rake attachment, the efficiency of road construction projects may be compromised, leading to future delays. And it was noted that at this point it is more expensive to fix, do any repairs, than to replace it. So the ask is $17,000 to be added to the 2025 final capital budget.
So that's coming out of equipment reserves?
Yes,
Okay.
equipment replacement reserve.
Kara?
How much money is in the equipment replacement reserve?
Colin, that was a question to you.
Sure. So currently, without this expenditure, the projected ending reserve is 767,287. So 767,287.
It's like those new jets, the 767s.
I move to approve replacement of the brush rake attachment M98 for $17,000 from the equipment reserve, replacement reserve.
Discussion. All those in favor? Carried unanimous.
Okay, the next one, fence wire roll-off bins. Looking for consideration for the capital purchase of two 21.2 cubic yard commercial roll-off containers with a mesh steel lid and side wall-mounted worm gear winch. So in September 2024, Brazeau County was informed that the local scrap metal dealer would no longer accept mixed loads containing fencing materials. However, they will accept loads comprised solely of fencing materials. In response, the Utilities Department has created designated locations at each of the 5 transfer stations that accept fencing metal materials, as no specific bin was designated for fencing. They've been placed on the ground with the plan to collect them into a metal bin once sufficient volume has been accumulated. The current metal bins lack covers, putting the soft top attached to the truck when it's rolled over in transit at risk of damage when fencing materials are placed inside. A new bin with a steel mesh cover would prevent materials from falling out, reducing the need to compact the materials and help separate fencing materials from regular scrap metal. The department is requesting 2 bins, one to be placed at each side of the river, and these bins could be moved to different sites as necessary. On the next page of the report, there is an example of what that looks like, and a list of some advantages and disadvantages. Advantages: clean a site without the wire all over and the safety risk, no risk to damage of the top of the roll top on the truck, and meets metal recyclers rules, additional bin for unplanned repairs or closures, lower wall height for throwing material into, and some disadvantages: initial cost to purchase. Some of the smaller sites, transfer station sites, have restricted space. It is an additional asset to maintain, though. So it's up for council consideration.
You know, there's gold in them there hills. With fencing, I crush it, and then I take it down to metal necks, and I get paid for it. But you know, if you've got a tractor, you can crush it really well. You fold it and flip it over, crush it down, and it's very easy to manage them with the hoe. But anyway, that's how I deal with it. But I can see throwing in loose barbed wire into a bin is going to cause nothing but havoc. I'll go to Anthony.
Pippa, these buildings or these containers that we would need, I see them further back on our page for refurbishing Violet Grove Transfer Station. It's suggesting that berms would have to be redone, and that way we can throw the material into these bins from the top.
Yeah.
So are these bins any good without having redone all our transfer station sites?
Yeah, so they would be standalone bins, like lots of the metal bins are already at some of the sites. I guess on the Valley Grove one that is to come is the addition of from the top being able to dump down, but a number of the sites already have standalone metal bins that are a lot higher wall than these presented bins that people have to, all the tenants throw over top.
So we wouldn't have to be redoing a whole bunch of our other transfer sites? That's what I'm getting at.
No, so this would be a standalone bin that wouldn't be at some of the other transfer sites to throw over the top of the actual garbage bins. It could be standalone on its side, like some of the metal bins are. Example would be the Buck Creek site. It has a standalone metal bin, so it would be like that. So you wouldn't need to redo every transfer site to accommodate them.
Okay, because that's what I'm getting concerned is, there's $800,000 coming up that we're being asked to do for redoing the Violet Grove site, and that allows for the dumping in from the top, it explains, for these metal bins. So if we're gonna have to do that for all of our transfer sites, there's another $800,000 for every transfer site is what I'm getting at. So that's my concern. As long as these bins have ability to be used and reasonably well used without having to redo all the transfer sites, I'm okay with it. But if we're redoing and spending another $800,000 pretty much for every transfer site, I'm not interested in buying them.
No, I think the Violet Grove was different. The wall was starting to separate
No,
away
but
and
still,
fall down.
there's
I understand what you're saying, but these are shorter bins, so they wouldn't fit in there anyway.
No, but even on the Violet Grove one, the motion that I read, as I read it, was directed to do the corrections of the caving wall. It wasn't necessarily to add on additional space for these bins now. So these bins seem to have been an extra cost for Violet Grove as well, at least in my interpretation.
Yes, separate that, I definitely have a lot more to speak on with the Violet Grove one when we get to that report. There was a motion in there to look at the reconfiguration of that. Once we get to that report, we definitely don't have to do a reconfiguration. We can utilize what we already have. These roll-off bins are separate to that. They would not cause us, whichever sites we do move into, we were looking to have a one on each side of the river. And with the option of being able to move it as, material accumulates at different sites. But it wouldn't need to reconfigure every site that they go to. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Glenn?
I haven't got a question, I got a motion.
Oh, okay, that's even better. Donna has a question first.
So you have these bins and people are putting in their fencing, but it's gonna fill up, like it's not compacted, right? So they're gonna have to empty it so often. How much extra is that gonna cost?
Well, if you've got a bin though, it's coming in, Donna, the farmers or the business person is gonna try to compact it as much as they can, otherwise they've got the same situation we'll have with a bunch of loose wires all over the place. Generally, you try to,
Oh, I see. The people that are bringing it will have it compacted.
yeah, they're gonna
Okay.
compact it as much as they can, because otherwise they're driving down the road with a half a roll. Go ahead, Glenn.
Yeah, fencing isn't any fun to play with, and I can't believe they're putting barbed wire in with mixed metals anyways. That would be tough. I move the council approve the capital purchase of two 21.2 cubic yard commercial roll-off containers with a mesh steel lid and sidewall mount worm gear, winch in the amount of $34,000, with the money coming from taxation. Thank you, Anthony.
Does it have to come from taxation, or could it come from building replacement?
I'll let Colin speak to that.
Colin?
Yes. So it can certainly, for that amount, it can come from anywhere. Just my thought process going forward is to utilize that surplus that we came into before assigning funds from reserves there, just to utilize the surplus. At the end of the day, the surplus left over we will put into the reserves, but just with some of the amounts, the way those reserves read out there, it's kind of simpler to do from taxation and then just kind of leave those reserves there as they currently are.
And you've heard my comments. I'm hoping we can give the ratepayers back $1.3 million, so that'll consume all the surpluses.
Yes, I have some figures and stuff on there when we can get to
Oh, I
that
see.
point. Yeah.
Okay? Go ahead, Dallas.
Thank you, Reeve. Yeah, just to administration, just for clarification, there is revenue generated from recycled materials, and that goes to the county. We're not giving metal away to a contractor to take it to General Steel. We're generating revenue here in a small form.
In a small amount, there is revenue from that, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm even smaller, but that's what I agree with, is we sell it, we don't give it away. Like in Drayton Valley, it actually costs you to deliver it there. Right, so. Yeah. That's why I said there's gold in them there hills. You heard me, all right. Okay, carry on, Pippa. Oh. The motion was to take it out of taxation. All those in favor? Those opposed? Just solo. I'm opposed there, just so you know. No, I'm just opposed to the things that don't make fiscal sense. As a businessman, I work on frugal issues and actually doing things for the most cost-effective way that we can. And it's served me well in private life. I just try to apply the same principle here. All right, but thanks. I like it when you take shots at me. Carry on, Pippa.
Okay, next topic was speaking on Cynthia sidewalks. So looking, the council approves the addition of $150,000 to the 2025 operating budget in 3204 maintenance for the upgrade of the sidewalks on 55th Ave, Cynthia, between 49th Street and 49A Street. The Cynthia Area 2 rehabilitation project involved the upgrading of underground utility infrastructure, which required repairs to the paved driving surface and ditches due to the excavation and replacement of these utilities. Before the project, all residents had paving stones, pavers, walkways set in grass as pathways to access the roadway. A scope change approved by the previous administration resulted in the installation of raised sidewalks connecting the street frontage to properties in the area. However, this design did not consider wheelchair accessible standards, as many sidewalks were constructed within substandard widths of 24 inches instead of the required 36 inches. Additionally, the current depth of the ditches under these sidewalks has raised concerns. Solution Administration recommends removing the existing sidewalks and culverts, replacing them with new 3-foot or 36-inch wide sidewalks and updated culverts. The removing of the existing sidewalks and culverts, along with the installation of new culverts, would be completed in-house through our maintenance department. The concrete work for the sidewalks would be contracted out. This would be able to be actionable in 2025. The proposal seeks to address critical issues regarding the accessibility and safety of sidewalks on 55th Ave in Cynthia, while also ensuring cost effectiveness and minimal disruption to residents. By widening the sidewalks to meet accessibility standards and replacing the culverts underneath will improve safety for the pedestrians, particularly those with mobility challenges. If approved, we'll make sure that we have strong communication with the residents to provide clear timelines and transparency throughout the project. I do have a small picture of a map there, just locating the area of the sidewalks in concern. And looking for direction on that.
How could an engineer get away with approving a project like this when it doesn't meet the standards?
I can't speak to past administration.
I'm just
There
making,
was, there's a reason this project didn't completed in the last year or two, because there was disputes over it, and that had to finish before we were able to do work in the area again.
Glenn,
Through the chair to Public Works, was there any chance of just doing a culvert from the north side, from one side of, from the east to the west, to eliminate that, a bunch of culverts, and then just covering it over with soil and then putting them in sidewalks? Was that considered, or do you think it's better to have those individual bridges going across each property?
It could definitely be considered, and it has been in the past. I think prior to hearing a lot more comments in the past week, this report was already completed based on what motions have been made in 2020, through 2021 and 2023. This was the option I'm proposing now was what was come up with. But there has been previous options of doing a culvert straight through and filling in that ditch more, and that can definitely be done.
But not with this, not with this.
The budget would change.
Oh, darn, this really sucks. I want to fix it, but at the same time, I want to make sure it gets fixed the way that the residents were looking for, so that right now, the issues they have, every sidewalk, the ditches, that's quite a deep ditch there, and it's almost impossible to mow it, right? It's so steep, you kind of hang on to the lawnmower at the far end to get it down there, but if we could lay a culvert from one end to the other, it would address it.
that may work, Glenn, but it'd have to be a perforated culvert, because you're trying to get all that lawn water into that culvert and down. If you put a culvert right past everybody's yard, how is the water going to get into the culvert? We're not transferring it just from one end to the other.
That's all that needs to be done, is just from one end to the other. You're not looking to collect it from every yard. We're right at the corner is where you're looking to catch it, and then it flows to the right-hand side there. So you'd catch it on the one side and then just funnel it across.
So the water coming off of the yard sites wouldn't impose a problem for water?
No,
Where does that water go then?
what would just...
Water the lawn?
Yeah, there's, I mean, in town, you don't have, in Drayton Valley, nobody's got a setup like this. This is something I've never really seen before, where you have bridges going across a ditch line, right? So it's very unique the way that it's set up. But like I said, the residents, it's, like I said, I hate to throw another $150,000 at this and then come back at it again, is all.
Well, you may want to take you've got some good points, Glenn. I'm not opposing what you're saying. You've got some good points there. But I just want to know where that lawn water is going, 'cause that's quite an area on both sides that water has to run down, right? But if we can do it without that, then it would make more sense just to put one long culvert in there. Like, I'm agreeing with you. Is that something that they need to relook at again? I mean, we want to get it done next year. I don't know, I guess we could have the motion if it becomes a problem, administration can say this isn't gonna work because of this, and we'll have to think about something else.
I do, I might add through the leave to council, after hearing most recent comments, we are monitoring drainage in the area too. We didn't have any previous concerns or complaints brought up, so it wasn't, something we were tracking. However, I do have a work order open currently where staff's instructed on a regular basis to be tracking drainage area in the area, just to get a bit better full report.
Okay. Anthony?
This is probably putting you on the spot, but you wouldn't know then what the cost would be to put that culvert in all the way along like Glenn is just referenced.
No, I don't.
It would be significantly more though, would it be fair to say that?
Yeah, and I'd have to check of the in-house capabilities. There is overhead power lines in that area too, and I know that stopped us from doing some in-house work in there, and having to contract that out with our equipment, and it is paved. Thus, we can't use any of our tractor equipment in there, so I'd have to double check on that for you.
Because they also brought up, Bart, the residents in a meeting when they were in about parking problems and the one-way traffic. The one-way traffic, I don't know if we can do much about that, but the parking problems they were quite concerned about too. And with that culvert that Glenn's speaking of, it might give a little more space. So I think it's worth, being that there's more than one problem that we're trying to address, I think it might be better that we, like, can we do this, Rudy, to table this part and bring it up to a subsequent council meeting and deal with it then, and still pass the budget today without this portion, but deal with it separately?
Through the reeve to Councillor Heinrich and to all of council, absolutely, if that's council's wish, you could refer it back to administration for additional information, and then you can just make a budget adjustment if required, following approval of the operating and capital budgets today.
I'd sooner see us do that, Bart, where we get more in detail work done by administration to find out the cost of adjusting this proposal, and then bring it back, and we still can pass the budget, you know, without that part of it today. So I'd sooner see us do that.
Doing it right is always better than doing it wrong twice, so, yeah. All right, so make it via motion if you want. Glenn?
I move to refer the Cynthia sidewalks back to administration for more information.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Are we just down to 4G? We dealt with the Valley Grove transfer station, didn't we?
No.
Oh, that's a different issue. Okay, 32.
Okay, refurbishing the Valley Grove transfer station. Looking council to approve up to $828,280.61 to refurbish the Valley Grove transfer station. During the November 21st, 2024 interim budget discussions, the following motion was made to approve $80,000 for the design and cost assessment of removing and replacing the retaining wall, regrading and repaving the resident access pad, and reconfigure the Valley Grove transfer station due to retaining wall failure and funding from engineered structures. Following this, administration created a request for proposals, and through the selection process, Latitude Engineering was chosen to design the retaining wall and the redesign of the transfer station site. With input from the operations team, they developed a design and cost estimate for the Valley Grove transfer station. The new layout will offer a more user-friendly experience while enhancing operational efficiency for both the attendant and county roll-off trucks. They were looking to, the metal disposal area would be redesigned. The implied spill bin will be reconfigured to prevent the county staff from needing to restock heavy appliances. And the recycling bin will remain in a similar location, but replaced on a new concrete pad. And then they were looking at also moving the attendant shack. And there's a small figure of the reconfiguration of the wall. Administration recognizes that this cost came back quite high, so there is some options to discuss. The motion, was for, as well as removing and replacing retaining wall and repaving, it was for the reconfiguration too. The cost estimate, we've definitely identified areas that could be done in-house and maybe a lot cheaper, as well as there could be discussions at looking at putting it out for proposal again without a full reconfiguration. I do have something I could put on the screen just showing the current layout and what the reconfiguration looked like.
So did I hear you correctly, Pippa, that we do a portion of it, get it ready, and then do another tender?
No, not prior to doing another tender. I think doing another tender, we could definitely identify areas that could be done in-house and only tendering out certain items.
Right,
So-
that's kind of what I
Yeah,
meant. We
yeah.
do what we can in-house and then go out for tender again.
That's exactly right, yeah. So this picture shows the current configuration. And then it's hard to compare the two. I do have print-offs if anyone wants that handed out as well, just to show the difference side by side of the two.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the reconfiguration is an option. Definitely able to, and I mean, it came into discussions throughout the needing to do the retaining wall. Just maybe wasn't sure it was gonna be quite so high.
Go ahead.
So Pippa, if we were to have done, let's say, the existing wall and just replaced it, fixed it the way it needed to be without extending for this additional metal bins, how much would that cost? Do you have a cost on just the existing portion being repaired?
I hate to throw a number without going up to proposal, but 300,000-400,000? Maybe?
And part of that, could we be doing ourselves?
There are parts of it, for example, just like when they, removal and disposal of concrete, we can do that. It is much significant, lower cost than what we get quoted, sometimes even free. Some of the stockpiling off-site, we have room there to stockpile. And some of the granular base, like 20 millimeters, we could supply. So instead of getting that sourced out, we could supply. That would be significant cost savings. If we move the tenant shack, we could definitely do that at no cost rather than the high cost we got quoted.
No, but what I'm getting at is if we just stayed with the existing structure or existing thing,
Okay.
did the repair, a lot of that we could do ourselves too, couldn't we?
Of the actual wall,
Because we're gonna have to haul away cement or dispose of it, remove and dispose.
we could do parts of it. We could do some of it, yes.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at. So even if it was $300,000-400,000, as you had suggested, guesstimating, it could be some of that could be further enhanced because we could do some of that ourselves.
That's correct, yeah.
From my point of view, Bart, I guess what I'm getting at is, this is since those bins have been suggested, they can be used without needing this additional expanded width or length. I don't see why we're doing it here now for one of the transfer stations. If we do it here, we're doing it carrying on every one. I think we got the bins that are showing that they are useful and that we purchased them without intent of putting these extended courses or runways at transfer sites. So I would suggest we just repair the existing required damage at Ballard Grove and set this bin the same as these metal bins, the same at this station as would be any other transfer site. So we could
So
cut this.
these
we
new
could-
bins won't fit in the sites right now, correct? The new, smaller, the lower top,
There are room in some of the sites for those. They're not, they're off to the side of the site like a standalone bin.
but we can't use them in replacement of the existing bins that are there.
Mark, what I'm getting at is, they weren't intended to be up there where the garbage is dumped in. These were, on any other transfer site, they'd be set off to the side, and you'd be dumping your stuff in, or putting it there and carrying it in, whichever way is open access to it. But at Valley Grove one, they're doing anticipatory preparation, making this site, since they have to do the existing wall, retaining wall and stuff for our garbage, they're already repaired. They're just making it longer, adding more dirt, so that these metal bins can be set alongside those existing garbage bins. And I'm saying that we don't need to do that for Violet Grove. We can treat Violet Grove the same as all our other transfer sites and repair the existing retaining walls that are there right now.
Were we gonna have ratepayers input at 11? I'm just thinking, we're gonna have ratepayers input at 11 o'clock if you're interested. But you'll need to talk in, oh, I was gonna, okay, sorry, you have to go. I was gonna say you have to speak into the microphone, but that's, no problem.
Carry on.
Okay, anyway, my point is, Bart, that I think that we don't need to be doing this $800,000, which amounts to making this one more extravagant and more convenient. We've got these bins that we would be using at any other transfer site without those extended unloading grounds, unloading, where you back up and just dump it in the top. So we can treat this one and just repair what needs to be repaired, which is a retaining wall of the existing dirt or the existing garbage, and have these set aside for the metal.
Glenn and Donna?
So we spent $80,000 to get this done, right? So we'd have to spend another $80,000 to get Anthony's idea done, or?
I think it could fall into engaging in the same company to format the design back to the original
Okay.
wall.
Donna?
Is this the oldest transfer site?
I'm not sure.
I think it
Maybe the
is, but
oldest one.
anyway, so we're gonna spend $400,000 to redo this in-house.
400,000 plus the in-house work.
Right. So we're, the metal bin and the appliance bin, they would just be able to roll stuff off, right? Instead of having to throw it over. I don't know, if we did some in-house, plus the $400,000 that it's gonna cost, I would prefer to go the whole gamut myself. Yes. Yeah. Because half of that is just gonna get us the same as what we had, instead of this, which is state of the art. It's gonna look nice, and it's gonna work for so long. Like I'm pretty sure Violet Grove is the oldest site. So I think it's done its work for a long, long time, and I think it needs totally revamped to be safe and efficient. Anybody else want to talk?
Anthony's got his light on.
Oh,
My opinion is the redesign for the existing one should not be that expensive. And I would ask a question to Pippa. The $80,000 that was allocated, it wasn't necessarily all utilized, was it?
Not to date. I haven't received all the invoices yet, so I can't 100% speak to that yet.
Because from my point of view, if the things had been already structurally engineered and others that we've got that have been engineered, there should be no need for a redesigning of that that's already there. You should be able to use the existing blueprints that were created and utilized. So there should be no extra costs associated with that. The 400 estimated would come down or should come down with our in-house work. So again, it should be less than half of what we're talking about here for just maintaining the existing facility. So why are we trying to spend more than twice as much to create a Cadillac service at one of our sites?
And I don't know what in-house costs, like what I saw was 75%. So you got 400,000 for the initial stuff that's being done, another 200,000 from, because when we say in-house, it's not free, right? So that's probably worth half. I'm going to say give the staff the benefit of the doubt, and they'll come in at half the price of what contractors do. But I don't know those numbers for sure. Basically, now we're a $600,000 site. You see, because the in-house isn't free. Go ahead, Anthony, finish off.
The $400,000 also, in my opinion, would not necessarily be excluding the in-house. It would be including quite likely including the in-house already, because if it's costing $400,000 to do it on contract, if we do part of that, it's coming down. So it's not 400 plus, it's 400 minus.
After a while, if we keep talking, it'll be free. Donna?
I'm not sure how to make a motion on this. So in order for you to find out how much we could do in-house, we would have to spend another 80,000? No? Okay.
But it's maybe the past motion, we talked about the retaining wall, the regrading and repaving, but then it also talked about the reconfiguration. So it's just whether that all wanted to be looked at or not in the new motion.
Anthony?
I would suggest a motion that would work is to explore utilizing the existing design for the existing retaining wall, and to find that appropriate design then just to replace the existing infrastructure as currently situated.
But that's just doing it the simple way, Donna, and that's fine too. If that's what we want to do, or you want to do the enhanced design that we're spending 80,000 for. That's kind of the difference.
Well, the only thing I want to include is the metal bin and the appliance bin.
And we need the proposed concrete pad for the new bin, right? For those new bins, we just go for the whole thing.
Lord?
Go ahead, Anthony.
The motion said removing and replacing the retaining wall. It didn't say anything about the enhanced program that was presented to us. So from my point of view, the design that was created by, or sought by administration went beyond the definition of the motion.
Well, I think
No.
Dallas's motion said the wall
Removing and replacing retaining wall.
right.
That does not say reconfigured.
Donna?
Well, I'd like to make a motion that Public Works looks into, for sure, this isn't proper motion, but for sure refurbishing the transfer station retaining wall, removal and replacement, and trying to fit in the metal. So, I'm sorry, Tina, this isn't even a motion, but, okay, Okay, now I'll start my motion. I move that Public Works brings back an amount to remove and replace the retaining wall and reconfigure to include metal and appliance bin for over-the-top disposal, doing as much in-house work as possible.
But you're gonna need to have a number there somewhere for Pippa rate and for Colin. How much?
But can I bring it back like the,
Okay, if we can get more information, that's fine, that's brilliant, Donna. Okay, any other discussion on this, Cody?
Yeah, so I don't know if I would say through the chair to administration or maybe through the chair to council or maybe both. I'm not sure. But so just within the plan that we're given here, we have, as an example, we have asphalt areas, and I don't know. I don't remember. I can't really see from the picture if it's pavement surface there already, but as far as the transfer station goes, I don't know, do we feel like we need pavement there, or like is gravel okay? Like I might like to see a breakdown of some of the costs of the different parts of this project.
Just from a practical point of view, I think pavement is good for the after cleanup from all the spillage that goes on. Into gravel, you'd be sifting it with the set of
You might be
chopsticks,
right.
you know, so as you get garbage and junk and stuff, it's gonna soak in if it's liquid, and it's gonna get scattered about, and then I don't know how you clean all that garbage up that's dropped off on the side. Could be asphalt, could be pavement, could be concrete.
Yeah.
But I think it has to do with the cleanup, doesn't it?
We do have example of one transfer station a couple years ago that asphalt was removed and then gravel was left there. Ideally, the utilities department does prefer this paved. It keeps everything easier to maintain. However, we do have an example of the gravel now.
Okay. Donna?
so the pavement that's there already, is that going to be taken up and repaved?
Yes, and part of why the retaining wall is failing is because of some of the grading of that pavement. So whether that is a smaller repair, that's an option too. This was looking at the full repaving of it. However, that's why the retaining wall is failing, because there is areas where that water is graded wrong and causing that failure.
So Donna's made a motion. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Glenn.
Managing waste collection and disposal is our core unit. That's kind of what we do. And now we have an opportunity to bring one of our sites up to a better standard. We've already spent, we all knew we were spending that $80,000 for. It wasn't just to replace some cement. It was for a redo of this facility. So if we can redo the pavement, that's a lot of work. When I look at the amount of work that's involved in this diagram, that is a lot of work. That makes sense. I wish this had been included in our budget prior to this, because I had a different opinion before coming here. Now my mind has switched around. I see how much work is involved, and I see areas like a proposed concrete pad for a bin, and those are the new metal bins that we've just purchased, right? Proposed asphalt pads, and then this wider proposed asphalt area. So I see, like, this is our core business. If we're going to do something right, this is where we need to do it right.
Yours is still to get the information to come back. It doesn't say not to do it. And then when they bring stuff back, then we can make a decision. You got 14 million in reserves. Dallas.
Good morning, how are you?
Good
Oh,
morning.
so I agree with you. And when we bring this information back, is what our request is, good motion, I would like council to consider entering into debenture and amortizing this over a certain period of time. It's a great capital project to do that.
Okay.
Moved by Donna Wiltsey to direct administration to bring back an amount to remove and replace the retaining wall and reconfigure the site to include room for metal and appliance bins for over-the-top disposal with as much work done in-house as possible.
Motion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Glenn and Anthony. Great. I've been talking about it for most of the meeting today, but we need to put on, what's that?
One
Oh,
more.
yeah, the addition, yes,
One more,
okay.
and then I'm done.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Unamas, Unamas.
I'm sure you're sick of hearing from me. This is the last one. So one, I think you've seen a couple of times on budget, the Range Road 73 walking path realignment. Looking for Council Director Administration whether they'd like to proceed with the Range Road 73 walking path realignment up to an estimated cost of $201,292 to be completed in 2025. There were a number of past motions that I've included here. The last one being to realign the Ring Road walking path in the amount of $80,000, subject to grant funding, with funding from Engineered Structures Reserve. I can't speak to at the time, but currently there is not a grant available. Through talking to maybe people past at the time, there was discussions of being a federal grant that included walking paths. At the time of doing this report in 2025, I haven't been able to find one yet. And the amount, the $80,000, again, I hate to speak what's happened in the past. I'm just presenting these projects with what I've learned in 2025 moving on. But there was a number just put out there without, being itemized. And there was a report in 2023 that was brought to council where that amount moved to $132,000, but it was accepted for information. So the $80,000 wasn't changed on the project ID. Our project manager has, Puna has included a cost estimate here, and this has been worked through by administration and with the project manager and with maintenance to make sure everything's itemized on here. There is a picture of what the proposed walking path would look like. So essentially, it would be realigning it to line up with the rest of the sections. You would remove the guardrail and the concrete bullets. And yeah, just looking for administration's feedback on how they'd like to proceed with that project.
Council? Just walk on down, sail on. Glenn, thank you.
Well, I'm excited to get this mess fixed up, so I move to authorize administration to proceed with LAIM 0037, Range Road 73, walking path realignment, 255 meters, up to an estimated cost of $201,292 to be completed in 2025 through taxation.
Discussion? Is this through taxation, or should this be through, engineering? No, but I'm saying we could say anything, I guess, is what.
Just for council's information, so we'll do taxation, as I mentioned there, using up the surplus. With a couple of these projects being essentially tabled for the time being, what we'll do is the remainder of that surplus will be transferred over into the reserves to fund some of these projects and may be coming at a later date. So even with this one being approved, we're still sitting at $1,782,000 remaining in that operational surplus, since we did have some of these projects funded through the reserves. So whatever isn't utilized within this will go to the reserves for some of these future projects coming potentially for spring update.
Okay. Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, just through the Chair of Administration, what was the amount that you just mentioned?
So including the Range Road 73 walking path, so including that, the number in the surplus left over is 1,782,270. 1,782,270, and that is including already funding that the 201,292 with the walking path. Yeah.
All right. Do we vote on that? Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? One opposed. Oh, Anthony's opposed to the walking path? Okay. So that was carried. All right, now I'm gonna say this. Throughout the meeting, I've been talking about giving a discount on taxes to our ratepayers, an incentive. A lot of the projects that we did here, actually I'll leave my discussions for afterwards, but we need to put this on the agenda. Just incentive program, like we've talked about at WEC and other things. Go ahead, Glenn.
I move to add incentive program to the agenda today.
Discussion?
Z2.
No? Well, it'll be item 8.
For,
Or 4C,
no, 4H. 4H.
or 4H, sorry, my eyes are bad.
4H.
There we go. Discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Anthony, no incentive? All right, so I put this on because we've talked about it all year, quite frankly. And when you look at all the items that we passed here, most of them are for the entire county. So things like the CPO that benefits the whole county, Alice benefits all the agriculture, Range Road 75 that benefits a certain portion, Sand and Salt though, that benefits everybody, and the rest, they benefit certain areas. But the one thing that we have that is unlike, and we've supported it at WEC and other areas, and I've spoke on it with numerous ministers, is our incentive program. That's something that is unique, and at a time when our citizens need it more than ever, with all the things that are going on, I believe we should carry it on for one more year at least. The 30% rebate, it's muchly appreciated, and it puts a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces when they come through the doors. And those that don't come through the doors that are already here, called staff, they get the same benefit as well. And so I think it's been a valuable marketing tool for us. And like I said, the ratepayers appreciate it immensely. So I can't make a motion unless I step out of the chair, but if somebody else would like to make a motion to continue the 30% incentive rebate that we've got going on. Kara?
It wasn't 30% through the chair to administration. How much was it? And then normally we have a chart with options. Do we have access to any of that?
Well, it was 30% last year, Kara.
No, it wasn't.
Through the chair, so actually we did do 30% last year. Previously, it had scaled down.
Down,
I
right.
think we had it at 20%,
Okay.
potentially 2 years ago. And so just to provide some information, as council remember, not last year, year before, we had adjusted the mill rate for the small business and vacant industrial. So the business is baked into the mill rate there, and so that's a year over year set in stone, going to go forward. Just put a dollar, so that'd be $270,000 is, already taken care of through the mill rate for the businesses. So this would just be looking at that residential,
Just at the residential. Okay.
piece there. And so I can give council some figures. So I'll start at 30%. The municipal or the funds required for a 30% tax incentive would be 691,473.
Okay, 691.
473.
Okay.
So that's 30%. 25% is 576,227. And 20% is 460,982.
Sorry,
460,982.
I'm dyslexic, so I have to really look. Okay. And then that would come from the surplus, correct?
Yes, outer crust funding through taxation.
And how many years have we been giving this?
I believe since 2016, I believe.
Do we have a total of what we've given back to?
I do have one updated. I can send it out for council's information to get a little cleaned up there.
Yeah, if you don't, yeah, that's fine by email. I'm just curious since 2016, how much has been put back?
Yes. Yep.
Anthony?
I guess Kerry didn't make a motion or anything like that.
Oh, is it, just for information, all right? And then we've got Donna and Dallas.
We had a indication, at least in the past, that we were going to reduce the amount. I think that's what Kara was getting at with her question, at least the way I interpreted it. And I don't see us continuing to continue on at 30%, 20, even 25. I mean, we need to start weeding this off. We have costs. The costs are increasing. We talk about the resident costs. The county has costs too. The costs for increased fuel and everything else that we're going to be buying here. We're going to see that on our, I would suspect, on our road tenders. So we can't just keep having these reductions without having a day of reckoning. And I think the day of reckoning is now.
As I talked about this, the day of reckoning is we got $2 million more last year. So there isn't a day of reckoning coming. We've got an embarrassment of wealth. This year we had a surplus of 2.9 million. So the day of reckoning certainly isn't this year because we've got a surplus. This isn't our money. This is our citizens' money. And when we've got a surplus, which means if we overtaxed our citizens, we should give it back. And if we're not going to give it all back, at least give a portion of it back to be an incentive. But 2 million extra last year, and 2.9 million extra this year, we're looking at $600,000 or $700,000, which is a third of what the extra taxation we did. Like, it's insane that we're actually not charged with municipal theft because we were overtaxing. We're only supposed to tax what we need. We don't tax for surpluses. We don't tax for reserves. We're supposed to tax for what we need. We've been overtaxing for a number of years, and that's why reserves have been building, and that's why we're in the situation right now where we got $2.9 million extra taxation, and we only had a need for $700,000. Like, come on, you guys, this is helping your citizens. It's about the best thing you can do. All these other things I said are only help a portion of the residents, except for the three I identified. You have more than enough to do all the things you want to, plus. Anybody listening to me? No? All right. So Anthony said his piece. Donna?
Well, a couple of years ago, the reasoning for not doing this 30% was we might not get grants from the provincial government. However, going to RMA, going to all these conferences, people come up to us and say, wow, good on you guys, giving back to your residents. And clearly, it doesn't affect our grants. We just got a what, $700,000 grant for, anyway, I personally some years have been opposed to this because I'm thinking, oh, this is, like you said, an embarrassment of wealth. And we should keep it, but the citizens really, really appreciate it. I don't know how many times and it wasn't anything to do with me, but people have come up and said, we really, really appreciate your rebate. So I don't know what percentage, I just know that, people appreciate it.
Well, we got all the lights lit up again, and let's see here, where was I at here? Well, no, these guys all want to say something, but if you want to make a motion, we can do that later. Dallas is going to make a motion, we can do that later. I guess I'll just start down the line. Anthony?
Right there, I had my one to say, let everyone else up at one side, and then I'll get mine at the end.
No, I'll get yours right now. Glenn?
We've been talking about the tariffs coming in. This is probably another year that is probably wise to have a tax incentive. I was in favor of rolling it back to 25%. I'm flexible on that. Taxation is theft. I'll say that for sure. If we don't need the money, if we're not going to use it, it makes sense to give some of that back to the citizens.
Thank you. I'll come up, Tara, Cody, Dallas.
Just looking for clarification, somebody said our reserves have been growing. I believe they've been shrinking, have they not? That's through the chair to administration.
So, looking at some of these, and also I'm including April 1st, the in-house roads that were approved for $687,000. We're currently projected with a ending reserve balance of $12,714 or $12,714,566.
And what were they last year?
Our beginning balance was $21,196,841.
And the year prior to that, so that would have been, so this is 2024, 2023, and what was 2022?
You need to know the endings, the beginning and the endings of each year.
I would have to bring back some information just to confirm those totals. Have to refer back to the statements there. I don't have them off my hand.
But at any year, was it less than 10 million in reserves?
I just
don't
wanted the
believe so, no.
clarification, because somebody said that they were growing, but they've been shrinking.
I wish I had 12 million and it was shrinking. Cody?
Wish I'd come up with a billion ever, but, yeah, so, through the chair to council, I guess. I hear what everybody's saying, and I understand both sides. I do have a concern, and that is, if we remember when we were at RMA, not this last one, but the previous session before that, there was a fellow who come up to the microphone, Premier's there, and his question for the Premier was essentially he was asking for money from the province for the infrastructure underneath of the hamlets in his municipality. So he'd come to the Premier and he's talking about, there's $11 million worth of infrastructure underneath of his one of these hamlets that needed to be replaced. It had been there forever, and that's a municipal responsibility, right? So his municipality hadn't been planning for this since this hamlet had been there, right? So that's an $11 million bill for one hamlet. In every hamlet's going to be different. Not every hamlet has water and sewer. Depends on where you are. But he wasn't. Not him. His municipality hadn't planned for this, and that was a fairly large expense. So, and I mean, we heard, we had $12 million at one point. We had $20 million the year before, something like that. You know, one hamlet is $11 million. That's huge, right? Like, out of the numbers we just heard, which may not be, and I'm not gonna say not entirely accurate, but it's not the whole picture. I understand that. So, while our residents, our taxpayers, I'm positive appreciate it. I know they appreciate, you know, having this tax incentive, not paying as much tax. My concern is that we do need to plan for our future, and not just our future, but, you know, future councils 10 years from now. You know, I just don't want to be the guy coming up to the microphone asking for the province to give me money to do the responsibility I was supposed to take care of. I'm not saying that we should be necessarily zero this year, but eventually, you know, we do need to be making money, right? We might be talking, like, I understand, like, we have a lot of money. But at the end of the day, if we were to replace all the infrastructure under a hamlet like his, $11 million, that's a huge chunk of what we got, right? And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hamlets off the top of my head, is that right? But, so if each one was the same, which I'm not saying they are, that's roughly $55 million, right? Like, that's everything and then some. So, I would like to, this is actually maybe a good time to bring up. I'm not sure how much work administration has done in our utility fields, like what's underneath, how long's it been there, when's it need to be replaced. That's something I'm interested in, and I might there might be an opportunity to bring that up later in our meeting, or in a future meeting. But while I'm not saying we should make this zero today, but eventually we are going to have to, you know, it's an embarrassment of wealth. It's not, I don't want to say it's not that much. It is a lot of money, but we have a lot of things we have to plan for. So, maybe that might be it. I've said my piece, I suppose.
Right. Well, as you know, we upgraded Cynthia Water and Sewer already, and that was about 10 to 15 million. So that one's done. Water and Sewer, water was done to upgrade that in Rocky Rapids. The other hamlets don't have water and sewer. I mean, we could always spend the money to do it if the residents wanted, but a lot of residents like having their own well system. So it's a lot of money, and what's growing is the amount we're increasing it each year, our budget. And that's a number, Colin, that you may want to look at too. What's the total budget gone up each year? Because our taxation system has funded the increases in the budget as well. So that's a stalling tactic when they say so. No, it's just that the amount of money that's coming in is more and more each and every year, and the surpluses are getting bigger each and every year, and so that fuels an amount of 691 pretty easily, plus having another 691 off of the total that we've got going into reserves is what?
So to council, if funded, and you were looking for that 30% funding there, Reeve? So on that 30% funding, the surplus remaining would be $1,090,000.
Okay, so we can give them 30% rebate and still tuck away another $1 million. I'd say that's pretty sound management, and that's not by one person or by one staff member. That's a team effort. It's both staff and council that should be rewarded for doing something that benefits our citizens over $1 million this next year on top of anything that we've done in the past. So we are physically sound. Next year, we're gonna probably get more money because the assets aren't disappearing and they're probably gonna increase in value. That's, I don't know how much, but each year there's been a surplus based on what we're taxing. So I would just urge you guys to support this. And it'd be nice to show our citizens unanimous support on this. Anthony and then Dallas.
I don't know the number exactly, but Colin, and you've talked about a lot, Bart, about us having a several $1 million infrastructure deficit. We can't keep running those deficits and keep talking about those infrastructure deficits without also being, looking forward and planning for those infrastructure deficits and being able to fund them. Not all of them are funded by the province. And there are emergencies that come up. We had the fire that come up here just a couple of years ago, a year ago, that certainly needed to be funded, and our reserves were able to be drawn on until such time that the province chose to help us out. They're not always going to choose to help us out, especially when we listen to more and more of their commentary. It's been stated here earlier by an individual on council that it's fraud to take money from the citizens. It's also being delinquent, not looking after and providing for the future needs of our citizens, especially when there's an infrastructure deficit. And it's also looking at when we talk about how our citizens today are benefiting and how our citizens today need this so badly. I really want to think it could be considered, and I feel it's important that we consider that some residents are benefiting a lot more than others, and those that are benefiting very little are probably not as much pushing for this as those that are benefiting more significantly, in my opinion.
You know, I can't help the fact that in River Ridge routine houses are paying a lot more taxes than the average person, therefore they're going to get a lot more on the rebate. That's just the nature of what it is, the value of people's properties. Farmland gets next to nothing for the rebate. I pay $200 for a quarter of land. So, you know, there is people that benefit more, but they're paying more in taxes. Dallas.
Yeah, I think you're right, Reeve. You know, when we formed this municipality back in 1987, we got the go-ahead from the minister to do this, and we promised that we would do it, if we could do it, with low taxes, and that was hard to do. I'm delighted that we're here now. Every time we run into the ministers, everywhere we go, they congratulate us every single time. And when we decided to build this municipality, we said we're going to do it different. And we are unique. We are different. And we are trying to be as consistent as we possibly can be. You see the inconsistencies happening in the global economy right now, and they are having devastating effects. We can be consistent, and it's healthy, it's good, it's strong, it creates growth. That's who we are. We don't do things the way everybody does. I'm happy to make this motion again. I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'd love to see it carry for this term. I'd love to see 4 years carry a low mill rate and a tax incentive. So I'm prepared to make the motion, and I'll move that Brazeau County apply a 30% tax incentive to residential farmland for 2025, coming from taxation in the amount of $691,473.
Classified as, Colin. So, did you say that?
I did.
Oh,
Residential farmland.
sorry, Tina, I couldn't hear you.
The end, please.
Pardon me? I would just,
Make it payable on time by June 30th?
yes, payable on time by June 30th.
All those in favor? Those opposed? Anthony and Cody opposed. Kara, Glenn, Donna, Dallas, and myself are in favor for 30%. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Your citizens appreciate it. You guys should actually hang around when taxation day rolls around and see how many people say thank you. I've happened to be here a couple of times when that's happened, and it's... All right, oh, we get some thumbs up from staff. All right, already we're getting congratulations. Go ahead, Glenn.
Through the chair to Colin, does this also address the 25% small business incentive?
So through the chair to Councillor Glenderson, yes, that is, we'll bring our tax levy bylaw to the April 15th council meeting, and within that, since we've adjusted that mill rate, that one's actually been done by bylaw, so year over year, unless it's repealed, that one's all good.
All right, so now we need to pass the operating budget. Any thoughts or discussions on that? It was passed already last fall. Anybody want to make a motion to pass the operating budget? Anthony?
I move to pass the 2025 operating budget.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Then there's the capital budget. You need a motion to approve the capital budget?
I move to approve the 2025 capital budget.
Discussion? Favor? Carried unanimous. All right. Sorry. Oh, cancel tomorrow, okay. Go
I
ahead,
move to
Karen.
cancel tomorrow's 2025 final budget meeting.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. So when do we see each other again? Tomorrow? No. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, you guys. Thank you, Anthony. Discussion? All those in favor? This is hard on your head. This is the hardest days of my life every year when it comes to budget. I don't have any lofty expectations. And as you saw today, I lost, 4 or 5 out of the